The 6 to 7 Figure Show, episode 29. Let's hit it.
Broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona, this is the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Tired of working so hard and having no time? Take your six-figure practice and turn it to a thriving seven-figure enterprise. And now, your host, author, speaker, mentor, and strategist, Frank Bria.
Welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I'm your host, Frank Bria. I'm joined today by my good friend, Nathan Seaward. How you doing?
I'm good, Frank. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. So listen, Nathan's self-discovery kind of took him from pilot to coach. And now he teaches his clients to do the same thing, how to make that self-discovery journey. Nathan enjoyed a successful 16-year career as an airline pilot before becoming a personal coach and host of the Nathan Seaward Show. He believes that through the process of self-discovery and self-mastery, entrepreneurs can change the world while creating extraordinary lives for themselves and their families. And he supports those entrepreneurs to create game-changing businesses that help people and the planet in new and innovative ways. From being a successful entrepreneur in the food industry to leaving at the height of his piloting career to serving others, he's always lived at the edge of his comfort zone, taking on new and challenging things in service and being his best self and serving the world. So we're grateful to have you here, Nathan.
Thanks, Frank.
So let's talk about pilot to coach.
Yeah, not a normal route.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, most people spend their whole career trying to become a pilot and then they retire at the end of that. So
Totally.
Why that shift?
It's interesting. So flying was a dream of mine. I got into flying, when I was 12 years old. I took my first flying lesson, and it's all I thought about when I was a kid. I just was obsessed with aviation, obsessed with flying, and took it all the way. Ended up working for an international airline, flying around the world. Really achieved that dream. So it was a dream job for me. It was something that I always wanted to do and loved. And like a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs in particular, we have that feeling inside of us, like we're meant for something more, or we have something bigger that we want to contribute, or we want to grow something beyond ourselves. Yeah. And so there came a moment in flying where I knew that it wasn't going to fulfill that part of myself. And so I started exploring. You mentioned the food business. I started a restaurant with my brother, ran that for a couple of years, was looking to franchise it. And we both kind of burned out for the reason that, I was a full-time airline pilot trying to run a restaurant, which is probably not the best recipe. And so it took me a few years to come to coaching. I went through a really bad breakup. And through that process, just happened to stumble upon a coach. I had no idea what coaching was, but stumbled upon a coach that really got me at my rock bottom moment, and not only helped me recover from the relationship, but started kind of needling me like coaches do, and towards, what is it that you really want to do? What's the mission you really want to go after? And so after a few years of working with him, I sort of discovered that coaching was this beautiful intersection of helping people, a business that I could grow with income. And it felt like all of my experiences in business and, chasing my dream of being a pilot and helping people, it all came together in this one, business, which was coaching. So, it may look like a bit of a weird journey from the outside, but to me, it felt like quite a natural process.
Well, yeah, I think most people's journeys always look a little weird from the outside in, but most people kind of look back on each of their steps and generally can go, yeah, I kind of know why that was there, the reason it was there. So who are the kinds of people that you're working with now? What's your typical client in your coaching business?
Well, a lot of times as coaches, our ideal client is us. So I'm not really any different. So, you can probably sort of trace the golden thread here, but I really like to help professionals transition out of soul-sucking careers that they're kind of done with and help them start the business that makes the kind of impact that they've always wanted to make, or that they don't feel like they're making, in their corporate job or in their career. And then for a lot of, a handful of clients at the high end, once they've started that and they're running a successful business, how do we hone in on that mission? How do we find exactly who you need to be in your business to take it to that seven-figure mark?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's a lot of discussion these days around that lack of alignment between what you're doing and what you really feel compelled to do. And it seems like this is a newer thing. And I don't know if it's that, technology has made it easier for people to become entrepreneurs, or if it's just something we talk about more. But I just know, a generation or two ago, this whole concept of having a job that was fulfilling wasn't even something anyone was even talking about.
It's weird, isn't it? It's the same in relationships,
Yeah.
like it's only recently that our partner, we can go into, that's a different thing, but, women's rights have changed. When women divorce now, they're entitled to half or more. So they don't feel compelled to stay in the relationship unless
Right.
it's really now truly passionate and loving. So society changes. And you're right. I think with the internet, with the millennial generation, with the corporate structure kind of collapsing a little bit in a lot of ways, and I think just this ability to now create a business or even just become a freelancer doing something that is important to you and collaborating with other people that are doing what's important to them. It's such an exciting opportunity that we're in.
So what do you think is the hardest thing for professionals to get over when they're making that shift? Is it just recognizing that they need to make the shift at all, or is it the blocking and tackling of actually starting something?
Well, I have a thing on my website if you want to go and find it. It's the top 10 reasons why you won't leave your career. But I'll give you kind of a couple of highlights. The first one is we're not honest with ourselves. We're not really truthful about ourselves. And I got a quick test that I do for this. If you find yourself justifying why you should stay in your job, you're probably coming from the wrong place, right? So when I decided to leave flying, I was leaving at the peak. I was earning the most money I've ever made, best job I've ever had, 2 weeks off every month, dream job, from
Wow.
all angles.
Yeah.
But my heart was like, we're done here. So my heart was like, it's time to go. And my head was like, what about the retirement fund? What about the money we're making? What about so
Right.
I noticed my heart was very strongly pulling me in one direction and my head was convincing me otherwise. So if you notice yourself justifying, just double check that, you're not going against your heart. That might sound a little bit ethereal, but that's how, I think that's the first thing. Get really honest with yourself about what's not working.
Well, I think a lot of people probably struggle with this. You posted something on Facebook a while, just not too long ago, that was actually quite controversial. It didn't seem like it was controversial to me. It seemed to get controversy, but around this whole idea that professionals are stuck with the salary. It's like golden handcuffs that they're stuck to, and that is actually one of the things that's keeping a lot of people's heads too much in that game rather than in their own life.
Yeah, what I posted was the salary is the bribe they pay you to give up on your dreams. So it was it was a very pointed post, and you know what it's like, Frank, on social media.
Yeah,
For
totally.
me, it was targeted to hit the people that
Right.
it needed to hit. Because when I saw that quote, it was about 6 months before I resigned. I went, that is so true for me, because every stage I was thought about leaving, I went, well, maybe if I got a slightly higher paying job, maybe if the conditions were slightly better, maybe a different airline with a better culture, maybe that would. And so I looked at all the different ways to avoid actually having to realize the truth that I wasn't exactly in alignment with that. So yeah, I think there's a certain truth to that golden handcuff. So again, it's the honesty about that. And our mind can only see what we can lose.
Right.
It can't comprehend of all the infinite possibilities that can come. So especially for me, as I came up to that resignation date, although my heart was going, yep, we're doing the right thing, this is great. The closer I got to resignation, all of the things that I was about to lose just were flooding in. I had anxiety, like, this is real shit. This is why most people don't do it.
Right.
And so I think just having awareness of what I'm saying, understand like your brain is showing you everything you're going to lose. It's trying to protect you. It's just trying to keep you safe. But if you can tune in and go, man, there's an infinite number of possibilities and magic available to me if I can just get past this next step. The day after I resigned, the next day I woke up, nothing happened.
It was all fine.
The world didn't collapse.
Yeah.
I felt tremendous.
Yeah. Right. That point, though, that we tend to focus, or actually it's not even attending to focus. It's like we only know when our brain is going through this process, we only know what's on the chopping block. We don't know what could potentially be coming next. I think that whether it's leaving a career or doing the right thing in your business or, making an investment in yourself, there's a lot of that makes decision-making difficult for people when the brain really only has what it can see in front of it as a decision-making vehicle.
Yeah. So the exercise I'll play with people, and you can do it now, is the what if positive game. So we're all masters of the what if negative. What if I leave my job and I run out of money? What if I do it and fail? What if I put this out there and then nobody wants to buy what I'm putting out there? How embarrassing in front of my friends and family. Cool. Yeah, we've got that list. That's fine. Let's try what if positive. What if you leave and it grows and is more successful at 10 times the rate you could have ever imagined? What if through leaving and getting into business and meeting a whole new network of people, you meet the man or woman of your dreams?
Yeah.
And the job was keeping you from that.
Right.
You know, play with that. Like, you know, the what if failure is easy to come up with that list, you know?
Yeah, that's, and I do think that your insight earlier that you shared with us, that sometimes it does take a coach to help kind of do that. Cause that's a really tough thing, at least for me. I know some people probably are better at this, but it's tough for me to lock myself in a room and go through that mental exercise. You kind of need, I think, a sounding board or an external perspective to, I guess, shut off some of that negative voice, that negative self-talk that would normally come up during that process.
Yeah. Well, here's the vulnerable share for me, right? Is you did this for me a couple of weeks ago, because once you get into business, that voice doesn't shut off. It's just a whole new voice that has a whole new set of fears, right? And so I just launched a new product recently. And so, boom, all of this comes up again. And I came to you, Frank, and I was like, man, I'm feeling like an imposter. I don't know if I can do this. And you were phenomenal, because you're a phenomenal coach. And you just talked me through it calmly. You have a huge heart. So you're able to like really warmly, you know, not tell me it was stupid, but just walk me through it and then look at some of the truth, some of the reality. So having that person there, whether it's me for my clients or you for your clients,
right?
You know, it sounds like we're just pushing our thing, but it's because we believe in it so much. I still have my own coach, you know, that helps me through stuff. I still take on business coaches, because the stuff it's so much easier to walk this path with somebody.
And I think, I mean, I don't know a really successful entrepreneur that doesn't have some kind of coach or mentor that they're paying, not even just like a mentor, you know, that they chat with or have lunch with occasionally, but like literally as a paid mentor or a paid coach. Like,
I think they're all essential. Like you have more experience than me, but a mentor is somebody that's done what you've done and can give you advice.
Right.
I love mentors. I have a ton of mentors. And then a coach is somebody that doesn't have to have done exactly what you're doing, but they're a phenomenal coach. Their ability is to coach powerfully, which is to help you see things, dream bigger, help you, you know, believe in you. And then a consultant, those are, a business consultant is necessary as well.
Yeah, that's true. They are different things. And I've, you know, because I've differentiated those myself in my practice. I've, you know, there are times I've been the consultant, there are times I've been the coach, times I've been the mentor, and it is a different role. So let's pivot a little bit to how you work with folks then. So, you know, professional, when are they typically, so I think they recognize, right, when they hire you that something's off, right? So walk us through the process that you typically take people through that help them make this transition and get them launched.
Sure. So, you know, people that are still in a job, that come to me, I only take people, I'm very strict about who I take on. I only take people who are ready to, you know, take action. Because if you're kind of like in this justifying mode, it's not that bad. It's not going to work for you. But if you're ready, you know, and the people I talk to that really do well are the ones like, I can't imagine working another day in this job, you know, is painful.
Right.
And so those type of people are the ones that are ready to take action. Yeah. And then for me, we go through a program. It's 4 phases. One is around figuring out how do we get you out of your job? How do we come up with a resignation plan that feels good, just to get you present to the end goal and overcome any fear that we've been talking about. Get you in the mindset, going from corporate to entrepreneur. There's huge mindset changes, as you know, Frank. And then the second phase is where we start building. I'm a big impact mission guy. So, and that's the type of people that want to work with me. They want to start a business because they want to have impact and make a difference. Sure. So I try and spend a lot of time getting really clear on what's the difference you want to make in the world. And if we can get clear on that, it's not going to be perfect the first time, but if we can get in the right zone, everything's going to drop out of that. The business model, you know, the lifestyle that you want to have, the kind of money you want to make is all going to fall out of the mission that you're trying to achieve. So we build that, and that's a really fun process. You know, you start to actually connect to something bigger than yourself that might have been missing in your corporate job. And then third phase is launching. So learning how to sell, learning how to get out there, learning how to market in a way that feels good to you, getting feedback, overcoming some of the fear around that. And then the fourth phase is momentum. So how do we take you up to that kind of 150, 250, 350,000 a year that's hopefully replacing your corporate salary?
Right. Yeah. And so it's interesting you bring up the mindset piece at the beginning, because that's got to be something that most professionals probably underestimate, the shift in thinking between someone who, I mean, even really good corporate professionals that are feeling like they're contributing and doing some amazing work at their own job. That's very different than when you're sort of on the hook to deliver all of the results. What are some of the shifts that you're seeing people have to make in order to make that jump?
Yeah, it's a great question. And something that just came up as you said that is, we don't want to throw out our corporate career. People that are really over it and want to leave. Like I didn't want to think about an airplane for a year after I left, right? But that's the thing that's, all that experience is feeding into who you are as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful not to leave that all behind. So when I'm talking about entrepreneur mindset, I'm not saying dump everything from your former life because it's not worth it. It's quite the opposite. You're bringing that all in. What are the big shifts? The big shifts are, number one, the beginner's mindset. You're going to have to fail over and over and over again. Being an entrepreneur is super ambiguous. There's, as much as people like us will try and convince you, there is no set formula for success.
Right.
It's a lot of like learning to play around and make mistakes.
Right.
As adults, we like certainty, so we're not used to making mistakes. So getting into the beginner's mindset, not being scared to break stuff. Second one is.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they all kind of tie together. But the second one is, not having a boss to complain about. It's you now. So taking full responsibility for your results and not seeing that as failure, but just seeing that as outcomes. It feeds on from the beginner's mindset. And then the third thing is just how do you structure your time?
Yeah.
For the first 2 years I was in business, there was no time off. If I was out on a date with somebody, I was thinking about the client call, the next day. So it's like, how do we get into this phase where we're not completely, destroying our lifestyle?
Right. That shift of learning how to manage time when no one's sort of standing over your shoulder. That's a tricky game. In fact, I was having a conversation with someone this morning who's making the shift into entrepreneurism from basically freelancer, but kind of contract freelancer. So his time is always used by, kind of dictated by somebody else. And yeah, he's in that same spot where he's now like, it took me a while. Probably it took me longer than it probably should have to, not wander into the kitchen or, go, well, maybe now's just a good time to go watch TV for a little bit.
I know. And then feel guilty while you're watching TV.
Yeah, completely. And that is the other thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'm always like have my phone or my laptop on vacation. So there's not
I know.
Yeah, that's true.
This shifts as you go through too. I mean, you work with a lot of 7-figure businesses. Yeah. This shifts again, right? So like the time and the mindset at 6 figures is what I work with my one-on-one clients is now how do we shift that use of time again to get you 7 figures? Yeah.
Right. That's true. It's interesting, I guess, from a corporate, depending on the corporate culture that people are coming from, that cost of failure can be quite high in a corporate environment.
Or as a pilot.
Or as a yeah. Yes, I suspect that's worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm risk averse by nature because of that.
Yeah.
In business, there's no lives at risk,
That's a fascinating insight. It's funny because I've actually, when I've consulted with larger teams that are doing marketing projects and they get hung up on the second guessing themselves, that's always what I usually say is like, we're not curing cancer. No one's going to die here if we run this. But yeah, I guess just shifting over so have you had to deal with that mindset shift from a pilot career to coaching to entrepreneurial career? I mean, is that something that you also have seen yourself of having to become more risk tolerant?
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, it's learning that balance, right? So as a pilot, I exactly like an entrepreneur, a pilot is the central point on the airplane, and they take in all the information from the passengers, the cabin, from the ground crew, from the engineer, from the refueler, from air traffic control, from the company, and then decipher that information and make decisions. An entrepreneur does the same thing.
Right.
So, and as a pilot, you don't have a choice to not make a decision. It's another thing. So a lot of entrepreneurs can't make decisions. They end up just not making a decision, which is the worst option. Right. We were trained as pilots, like make any decision and then review it. You can't just fly along and not make decisions.
Right.
So those are stuff that I brought with me.
Nice.
And the stuff you're talking about is, I wrote a post the other day saying like I was trained to be anti-work. And a lot of employees are, we learn to hate work or not like work or knock off work or get away early from work. As an entrepreneur, it's like you love your work, like this is your life's work. You left your job to do this. So like retraining the mindset to go, well, this is not work as I know it. This is my life's work. Yeah. So it's okay to work hard.
Well, and probably why it's so important, your second stage, that you're so mission focused in trying to create that, because if you don't have that piece in place, then you don't actually you don't land in that spot where this is your life's work and you can train yourself to work more because you're actually driving towards an outcome you really deeply want.
Yeah, that's a good catch. That's probably a bias from me because those are the people I work with. I don't know how people have businesses that they're not like deeply passionate about.
I mean, it's funny. It's business. Yeah, there are a lot of people. I've met people in business that, they inherited it from their father or, they just kind of like landed in it. Their journey was, they got a job and then suddenly they were on their own. And so they decided to build it and they just don't like it. Or they've fallen out of love with it because it was work they enjoyed doing, but the mission or the outcome of the business wasn't aligned with something that they wanted to do. And I think a lot of us go through these phases where, we might enjoy doing something, but we're going to grow. We're going to grow out of the doing and we have to move into the being, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's so as you are working, I noticed you kind of made a differentiation between folks that you're working with who are making this transition and folks who have gone a little further. You do some one-on-one work. So how are you structuring this work with these professionals so that you're working with multiple people at the same time?
Yeah. So the first way you'll come in to my business is if you are a professional wanting to do that. So that's a 12-week course. And through my own experience doing a ton of courses, I learned that the best way to do it is have a content base and then have coaching on top of that. So I see a lot of products that are just an online course. I think 96% of them don't get completed. Right. And then there's a lot of coaching where the coach doesn't provide content, which I also understand. So I wanted to think for this particular thing, I thought the best mix would be online course backed up with really good coaching and some accountability. So that's a 12-week course. That's the first part of it. Then I work with a handful of people one-on-one, and those are the people that are already, have got a successful idea, but need to hone in the mission and then, become who they need to be to scale the business and have a bigger impact. Yeah. And then I do some group work. So I have a mastermind that a lot of my one-on-one clients are in. We do a couple of retreats. I just got back from Lake Tahoe yesterday. We had a 5-day retreat up there that was extraordinary. Nice. So it's really 3 parts of the business.
Okay, that's great. So the course piece, that it's a fascinating sort of starting off point. I don't know that a lot of professionals would think, oh, I'm going to sort of launch into a program to kind of get themselves figured out. So why choose that methodology to make it work?
Well, again, the people that come to me are ready.
Okay.
So if you're a tire kicker and you're just kind of exploring the idea, it's just not going to be a great investment. Sure. It'll be interesting, but you're not going to feel the value. It's if you need somebody, which I needed. I had a huge mastermind group that helped me quit my job. If you need somebody to help walk you through that, to give you the courage to resign from your job and to give you the certainty about going into business. Those are the 2 things. It's the courage and the certainty that we're most afraid of or that we don't have. And then it's not about building a 6-figure business in 12 weeks. It's maybe some people can do that. I wouldn't be able to do that, but it's about getting like a validated business plan, which means we've got clients coming in the door. We're feeling good. We feel confident enough to resign. And then we know how to scale it. And I say to everybody that comes through it, this is my life's work. This is my mission. I'm not going to let you fail. my mission is to create 1,000 impactful entrepreneurs, and I want you to be one of them. So, I'll make sure it wins. You win.
Nice. Now that's a really nice way to kind of, again, one of the reasons why when you have a mission oriented business, it's probably a better bet for everybody, because people feel like, listen, this is aligned to their life work, and it's aligned to who they want to be and how they want to show up in the world. That's definitely a lot different than sort of, I don't know, starting a restaurant, which, by the way, is fascinating. If we had more time, we'd go into that story, because I've always been interested in the restaurant business, mostly because I like food. But it does seem like it would be very difficult and very challenging from an hours and work perspective.
Yeah, I think it took us 2 years to realize that our financial model was never going to work.
Oh, gosh.
So, I mean, there was a ton of learnings from it. We created an amazing brand. We got huge customers in the door. It was a lot of fun. Learned how to hire people, so I never look at it as a failure. But
yeah, no, I mean, it's always, there's a journey there. So, Nathan, this has been a really fascinating discussion. Unfortunately, we're out of time. For those folks who are like listening to the story that you're telling and they kind of feel called to connect with you on this, what are some ways, or what's the best way for someone to kind of kick that process off and connect with you?
Yeah, so the podcast, it's called the Nathan Seaward Show. You mentioned it at the start. So I interview entrepreneurs that have been through this, and I really try and dig into their journey and how they overcame some of the mindsets. So that's a weekly show. You can watch it on Facebook as a live, or on iTunes, Spotify. Okay. And then I have a training. It's just a short training, and I'll put a link up for you guys, nathanseaward.com/Frank. And it just is a 10-minute training, kind of going a little bit deeper into what I talked about, how to get honest with yourself, how to create and figure out the mission and the vision, and then how to have the courage to move forward. So it's like, just goes a little bit deeper into some of the stuff.
Oh, that sounds great. And that link will be here below the video if you're watching this on video. If you're at the show notes page, it'll be here as well. If you're listening to this audio offline, come on over to the show notes page and link directly to it as well. Thanks very much for that. That's really generous of you to offer. And thanks again, Nathan. One last question for you before we let you go, though. If someone is still in the tire kicker stage of thinking through this process, what one piece of advice can you give them that's going to help them push through and come to a decision, or come to a place where they feel like they need to take action? What advice would you give?
From the moment I was a tire kicker to the moment I left my job was 6 years.
Oh, wow.
So I have no problem with tire kickers. So just be, embrace the curiosity. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's probably not right time for you to leave your job, right? You'll know when the time is. So I would say be a voracious consumer of content and information. Read books on wealth, read books on business, read books on mindset. My favorite book is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And, we're talking about The Big Leap in our conversation. Phenomenal book, and will take you all sorts of different places. So I'd say follow your curiosity, follow the whispers of interest, be honest with yourself, and just consume a ton of content. That's great. That's a much better answer than I would have expected. I think that's terrific. Not that I have low expectations of you, Nathan. Most people are kind of like pushing to like speed the decision process up. So for you to just kind of lean into the natural decision-making process and the curiosity, that's fascinating. It's phenomenal. So yeah, it's being 50% nervous, 50% excited. And if you're 90% nervous, what a horrible place to leave your job and come from, start a business. Well, and it would be really tough, I think, to execute the things that you need to do when you're kind of in that place. It's not a comfortable place to be emotionally. Yeah, from experience. Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you again. Apologize that we're out of time. Thanks, that was great. A little bit more. And thank you all for being here with us on the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I've been your host, Frank Bria. It's been a lot of fun to chat about this. Again, I'm gonna lean back into the curiosity thing. So embrace the curiosity, whether that's you as you're thinking through, leaving a career, or whether you are on the cusp of making big business decisions and are nervous about making investments. Lean into the curiosity, educate yourself, read a ton. I think that's great advice. So thanks, Nathan, for that. Thank you for all being with us today, and we will see you next time. All right, take care. Bye-bye.